this stream or this show is not about. It's not just a test of me testing out OBS. I actually have had something on my mind for the past few days that I'd like to talk about, and it's might be a bit controversial. Some people who subscribe to this channel or find this video might, you know what, a lot of you are gonna disagree with this opinion, but I feel it has to be said. So recently in the news, I'm sure many of you have seen that Alex Jones of Infowars has been systematically censored by some media platforms such as Apple, iTunes. His podcast has been pulled from that. Spotify, YouTube, Facebook. I think he's still on Twitter, so his periscopes are still up. But yeah, so, and you know, of course the internet is just blowing up about this sort of stuff. People on both sides, you know, arguing this way or that. But for me, it comes down to this. So I've known about Alex Jones for about 10 years or so. He's been around a lot longer than that, but I've only known about Infowars and his videos and his conspiracy stuff for about 10 years. If you don't know who he is, which at this point there's not a lot of people who don't know who Alex Jones is, he is, I guess, the best you could say, he's like a conspiracy monger. He has peddled out these conspiracies about 9/11 truth and a few others. A lot of what he says, if you watch like his early videos, he's actually has a little bit more logic and thought behind a lot of his videos or a lot of his broadcasts, but just here in the past few years, you know, mainly because he's, you know, a media figure, and he, you know, he wants views and people to watch so he can sell his supplements or whatever. He becomes more outrageous and more bombastic in his ways. So he's just a very loud, big. He's a very he's a very out there presence, right? Yeah, I mean, he makes himself known, and his views are quite controversial. But he has been deplatformed from a lot of these media outlets, and I've seen a lot of people who I normally agree with on a lot of things supporting this, and I have a problem with that because I'll just come out and say it right now. I don't agree with much of what Alex Jones says. I think he's crazy, but at the same time, I also think what he's doing, that's a character that he's putting out. But that's just my opinion. However, the problem with deplatforming him from these things is they did it because they said he was promoting like hate speech, or he was propagating, you know, harmful speech towards others with his show Infowars or his broadcast. And this creates a bit of a problem here because the issue of free speech. And the reason why I bring free speech up is, well, there's a few reasons. So a lot of people will say Alex Jones has every right to say what he does say, and he shouldn't be punished for that. But people on the other side are saying that his views are harmful and they hurt people, especially his conspiracy theory about the Sandy Hook school shooting, the elementary school shooting that happened a few years ago. He came out with a lot of videos that said that they were staged or a hoax, or the kids didn't die, or crisis actors. I haven't actually gone through and watched all of those videos, but I've seen the compilation, and it's pretty damning, right? And he's being sued by some of these parents. Well, that in itself is despicable if it's true. If he actually didn't backtrack and apologize, and if he's really believes this stuff, it's not. I don't think that's right. But is he really harming anyone with this speech? You could say the emotional harm that the parents deal with, right? But that doesn't mean that he's promoting hate speech, right? And people say, well, the reason why he was blocked by Facebook, or deplatformed by Facebook and YouTube and iTunes and Spotify is he violated their rules in terms of service. That's why, according to the founder of Twitter, Alex Jones is still on there because he hasn't violated those rules for Twitter. And people say, well, these are private companies. They have every right to ban who they wish if they break the rules, which I completely agree with. I completely 100% agree that private companies should be allowed to ban or say no to people, whoever they wish, without repercussion. The problem here is the matter of free speech. Well, these companies aren't the government, or they're not. I mean, they have a right to ban anyone they want, but it's the precedent set here that people are silenced for their opinion or their views on something. And I am of the belief that I may disagree with what you have to say, but I'm all for people saying whatever they want, especially if I don't like it and I don't agree with it. Now, I'll repeat that. The people I defend the most for free speech are the people that I disagree with the most. And because if you only have speech that you agree with, then you're living in a bubble. You're living in a bubble, and if you never ever hear any outside any outside opinions or anything that challenges your own thoughts, well, then you're living in a confined space, in an echo chamber, in a bubble, and you'll never learn anything more that way. It's just my thoughts on that. So, and if these companies are censoring Alex Jones for what he's saying, people say, well, he can just go somewhere else and do it. But there aren't really that many alternatives to Facebook or to YouTube or to Spotify or to iTunes. Now, you could say, yeah, there's offshoot websites like BitChute and DVideo or whatever. These are up-and-coming video platforms that could compete eventually with YouTube, but they're not established enough to have any sort of large audience, right? Well, he could just go to Vimeo or whatever, but the problem here is that they're censoring him because they don't like what he's saying. And when there's no other alternative to go, these companies have a monopoly on their platform. So therefore, it's sort of like they're strong-arming a narrative into the local media, into the worldwide media, for that matter. And that's what's alarming about it, is there are people that don't want other people like Alex Jones to express his opinions and to get his opinions out there. And that's dangerous. When you try and silence people, no matter if it's from your own company or not, whenever you try and silence people for speaking their mind, you're trying to police their thoughts, that's where we start getting on a slippery slope. And everyone, it's hard to find a better target for this than Alex Jones, because most 98% of people in the world disagree with what he says, and they find him despicable and crazy and whatever. So they think, who cares? It's just some crazy conspiracy loon that gets kicked off the internet. One, he wasn't kicked off the internet, but you know, if people don't care about that's the person, he's the easiest target to go after. Okay, so not a lot of people will challenge it, and they'll just accept it like, yeah, whatever, he's a douchebag, get rid of him, who cares? But it sets the precedent of companies, of these media companies, to get rid of anyone that they don't like, and try and silence them from their platform. And right now it's Alex Jones, so no one but his diehard fans really care, or proponents of free speech really care. But then who's next? Who's next? There, people may say, well, it's really just like liberals going after conservatives. If you're in America, liberals, conservatives, but worldwide, it's if you're going after these people who you disagree with, and no one is going to care about them, then who's next? They're going to come after people who have a differing opinion on the next thing, or the next thing, or the next thing. And it's a slippery slope that could spiral out into something completely what we don't want. And a lot of these companies that are silencing Alex Jones are trying to cozy up to the U.S. government so they're not regulated. I'm sure a lot of you saw the congressional hearing that Mark Zuckerberg went to, where he was, sipping the water, looking like a robot and everything. He was trying to play nice so the government doesn't get their hammer on Facebook and slam it down on Facebook with regulations and try and break it up. Facebook is a monopoly on that type of social media. There are alternatives to Facebook, but Facebook is still the king. Even after all the scandalous stuff that's happened with Facebook this year, and a lot of people are leaving the platform voluntarily, mind you, it's still they still have control over a large audience, right? And to just completely get rid of someone like that, they're just trying to save their ass when it comes to not being regulated by the government. So these platforms kicking Alex Jones off, it's not about what he's saying, it's about the principle behind it. I don't agree with Alex Jones, but damn it, this kind of stuff makes me mad. And now YouTube is starting to crack down on even videos with the name of certain people that they've banned, right? You can't even make a video talking about it, about if you have Alex Jones in your title, or if you have, for example, Gavin McGinnis, or whoever, these people that have been deplatformed and banned from these sites. You can't even have their name in the title of your video, or else it'll be demonetized, or your video will be taken down because it's considered hate speech. Think about that. We're getting to a point now where it's not so much the government's actively trying to silence people. There are companies who are acting as the strong arm of governments trying to silence people. And because they can use their guys as a private company, even though they have complete control over the market, so it's really a monopoly on the audience here, they're using their power and their clout to try and control these and censor people that they disagree with. Now you might say this shows an absolute bias, that the media is biased on one side. If you look at most mainstream media, I would say 99% of the mainstream media, it is pretty biased. for one side. Then you have the alternative in mainstream media, which is biased towards the other side. There's not really any mainstream media that is actually pretty balanced. It's either completely one side or the other. We're speaking in for American politics terms, one side is completely against Trump and the other side is completely supporting of Trump. And then you have the alternative media online, which could have any number of possible views. You have people in the libertarian circles, you have people in the democratic socialist circles, you have people in anarchist circles, you have people in all these different forms of media that's considered the alternative media. And whether or not you agree with their political stance or not, most of them are promoting a rational look at what the information we are given. And they're shaking their heads at both sides of the mainstream here. So for example, you have a democratic socialist guy like comedian Jimmy Dore, who I don't agree with his policies on universal health care or anything like that, but the guy is speaking truth when it comes to establishment Democrats in the United States. And I mean, because he's speaking out against the establishment and this fact that he's anti-war and everything, people have been trying to. He's even been almost silenced because of his differing views, because he doesn't fit the mainstream narrative, and he's a pretty liberal guy. So it's not just conservatives like Alex Jones that are getting deplatformed and censored here. These are people of anyone who stands up against the mainstream narrative, because all alternative media is either called fake news or something. So you have one side, the Trump people, calling all mainstream news fake news, and then you have the mainstream news calling anything that's not mainstream news fake news. And for the average person, it's confusing, so they don't know what to believe. I would say watch the alternative news more than the mainstream news, because mainstream news does have an agenda, whether it be for one side or the other. They do have an agenda. I would say most news outlets probably do have an agenda, but the mainstream news outlets serve one purpose and one purpose only. That is to get ratings, and that's to get views, and that's to get more money. And if anything challenges that, then they're going to shut it down. They will shut it down. And for everyone out there who makes content online, whether it be through YouTube, or Twitch, or iTunes, or Spotify, or anything, everyone who makes content online should be very wary of this. Because, yeah, they went after Alex Jones, and they're going after these alt-right guys. But it sets a precedent of what could come later. This could be, Alex Jones could be the martyr here, which he's already become a martyr. So, deplatforming him has actually gotten his popularity to rise. Right? So it's actually really counterintuitive to what their purpose was, right? So not only does censoring people that you disagree with, not only does it make them martyrs, it in a sense it will probably promote them more so and bring more validity to what they're saying than if you just leave them be. So what's dangerous here is not Alex Jones. What's dangerous here is the censoring of free speech by either private companies or the governments, and trying to limit the amount of information that people are allowed to get online. That's what's dangerous. That's really what I have to say about that issue. So Anyway, thanks for tuning in. This was just a rant and ramble of me testing out this new Streamlabs OBS. If you guys enjoyed the video, of course give it a thumbs up. If you dislike the video, give it a thumbs down. If you completely disagree with what I say, good. If you agree with what I say, good. I'm all for anyone who watches this to express whatever opinion they want, whether it be good or bad. Because what's the point of a free and open right to free speech if you can't say what you want? Think about that. Alright, I'll see you guys for the next one.